Hey everyone, it's Frankie of Frank Money Talk, and I'd like to say thank you to Greg Williams for connecting me with another amazing artist. We're here on behalf of Variety Vibes Radio, and today we are interviewing Dajee Lynnell. Say hi to everybody. Hey, Dajee, say hi to everybody.
It's having a little bit of a crazy layover. I heard you repeat the same thing 5 times. I'm so sorry.
Hey, can you hear me okay? Hey, Dajee, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, say hi to everybody.
Hey guys, I'm sorry about that.
So definitely excited to be speaking with you today. I've got plenty of questions for you, and then usually we get a couple of folks that will toss a couple questions in the chat. But I want to get an opportunity to people who haven't heard from you before to get a sense of what you're all about, where your musical influences come from, and some of the events that you have coming up. Is that all right? Okay, there's an echo. Um, hmm. Yeah, do you want to jump out and come back in and see if that helps?
Yes, I'll be right back.
All right. Well, we're waiting for her to come up. Feel free to add your questions in the chat, and I'll definitely make sure that she gets them. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Let's see. All right. Dajee, thanks for being here with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's Friday, and everybody's getting their weekend off to a great start. So, everybody, I know you could be anywhere, but you're taking the time to hang out with us, and I want you to know that we appreciate it. Variety Vibes Radio brings you independent music artists who have grown a ton in their own community, and they're starting to go national and even global. And it's the kind of artist that you're like, wait a minute, I can't believe I've never heard this person's music before. And then once you hear it, it's stuck in your head. So I'm not a big name dropper. You can go back and watch the other interviews and check out our Instagram, but you'll see some really amazing guests that are not only talented musically, but in my mind, an independent music artist is absolutely an entrepreneur. There's so much to the business aspect of being an artist that I will hope people take notes on. And so that's also why I love having guests on our show so they can share some of that journey as well. But I've got a couple songs I want to share from you. But first, why don't you tell us where you're from?
Um, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, it's like it was like you were talking, but your mouth wasn't moving. So I'm like, okay, and it was like repeating. Okay, I'm sorry. My name is Dajee Lynnell. I'm from the Bronx, New York, and I live in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Awesome. And so, how long have you actually been publishing your music?
It's only been like a year and a half since I've officially published my first song.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so, anyone, well, one, definitely follow her on Spotify because she's got hundreds of thousands of views at this point, streams. But and that was pretty much right out the gate, right, with your first single. And why do you feel like what happened? Right? I mean, it's easy to say, oh, they just got lucky, but why do you think it was received so well so quickly?
Um, my dad, he was really big into the music scene, and he pretty much just supported me so much with my first single. He gave it like a month for me to go out and just expose myself and try new ventures. And then he went and he did his thing too. Um, so I ended up being on a couple Spotify playlists, and then people started liking it, hearing it, and then they started to follow me, message me like, "Oh, I heard you." Like, oh, okay.
That's really cool. So I definitely want to well shout out to all the dads out there, right, doing whatever they got to do. But how how would you suggest? You mentioned different Spotify playlists. How do you suggest people sort of organically or networking their way into being able to be on some of these playlists? Because it's not total chance. I mean, there's some influence there that you can have, right, by connecting with people. So, like, how do you suggest people go about that if they're trying to get found on, like, trying to get added to other playlists?
For me, I specifically make genuine connections. You can go to any platform for artists. Like they have multiple. They have the Spotify Live. They had they have Clubhouse. They have few sites just like that you can get on and just express who you are, be yourself. People will gravitate towards you, especially if you have something to offer and
Mm.
you're genuine. People are gravitated towards that. Um, so you just go on those streaming apps from my perspective, from my experience, and just try to connect with people and say, hey, like I see that you have a Spotify playlist, like a big exchange playlist, my own playlist to put new artists on, not in hopes of exchanging specifically, but just so people understand. Like when I say I support you, I really do support you, and I think that they start feeling and it starts kind of going full circle.
Wow, I think there's so many great things that you said. There's so much nuance to what you said, and I think people forget, as I mentioned, music artists are entrepreneurs, and sometimes artists think that like you're just going to get discovered, whether it's painting or music or some type of craft that you make, and that's not always the case, right? And even if that does happen, you don't want to wait around for that to happen. There's some proactiveness that needs to happen that a lot of other entrepreneurs know, but not so much in the music space. So, like, where did that sort of insight come from? Is it just the kind of person you are that you enjoy connecting with people?
Um, yes, in a way. I have so many friends that are also in the music industry and are so talented, whether it's the music industry or a friend. He's had two artists well, so he gives me so much advice, and they all do. And I love hearing different perspectives because even though you do your own thing, you need people to open up your mindset and to help you think of different ways and new cool ideas. My students, I teach and they give me so many tips without even knowing, you know. So
Yeah,
they put me on to like everything. Like, Miss, have you seen this on TikTok? Like, have you tried this? Have you tried that?
that's funny. How old are the kids that you teach?
High school, so I teach Spanish actually, 9 through 12.
Really?
Hmm.
That's cool. I love that. Yeah, and so that's another thing too for entrepreneurs is that you know, well, one, I mean, it's an incredible mission to be a teacher anyway. Anybody that works in the school system, everybody from the lunch lady to the janitor, they're all people who are contributing to an ecosystem that because if the school is not safe and clean, and if kids aren't fed, then they can't learn anyway. So it doesn't matter what the teacher is saying to them, right? So everybody in the school system is important. So I definitely want to highlight all the school staff out there. But keeping in line, having that communication, that two-way street with kids, you're almost ahead of the game, right? Because they're the ones that know what's cool, what's trending, what works on social media, what doesn't. And a lot of times, sometimes your friends will sort of care about your feelings, but kids, I don't know. Sometimes they'll just tell you the way it is, right?
Yeah, kids are so mean sometimes, but they don't. But they don't mean the harm, you know. They just are aggressive with the way they say things sometimes. But they react really well to my music. They actually really listen to my words. I didn't even tell my students in the beginning about um about my music or anything, and next thing you know, they're like, Miss, like we download the song, we found out you sing, you know, like we listen to it every day. I almost know all your words. And I started getting random kids coming up to me in the school, and I'm like, okay.
Oh wow, that's really cool. I mean, again, that's one of the most rewarding careers out there to work in the school system, and then for them to also know that you do this other thing, I think is important too, because especially these days, I get so many kids that ask me like, "Hey, I don't know what I want to do," or everyone's pressuring me to go to this, go to college or go to this thing, do that thing, and a lot of times they don't know what they like or what they're passionate about because they're not trying anything new. They don't want to look silly or they're afraid of what people are going to think. But you're showing people that you can be or do more than one thing. You're not defined by just one behavior or one activity or one hobby. And while you're working on one dream, you're also building up this other dream of music. Like when did music start for you as like a passion? I mean, have you always been musically inclined?
Yeah, I my first memory of feeling like do music, I was really young. I had to be at least like 5 or 6 years old. It was in the um Ashanti came out with her "Rain on Me" song. I'll never forget it. And I used to literally sing that song heart out, and I was like, I want to be just like Ashanti. I loved the video. She's so creative, and I was like, wow, I want to be dramatic. I want to make people feel like this. I want to do all of this.
Yeah, I know. I liked it a lot. And so, were you involved in like any school drama, like theater or plays or anything like that?
um, well, so I knew I liked singing, but I wasn't sure if like that was for me at that age. And my siblings were like, "Oh, like girl, no." And I was like, "Okay, maybe I'll try something else." And then my mom, when we moved to Connecticut, she put us into all sports. So I was just such a sports girl. I didn't do anything else but sports. And then my freshman year, my friends convinced me to try the talent at school. So that was my first time getting on a stage and singing. Um, and I was like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I've never sang in front of people before. You know, I didn't know how to take it. And everybody was like, girl, like, you can sing, you know? And I'm like, okay. And then after that, I really didn't sing still. Um, all the nervousness made me a little bit weary on, like, is this something I want to endure, and go through and stuff? Like, I fix it on stage fright, sweaty palms. I was like, maybe this is not for me, you know? And I had a lot of self doubt. Sometimes you don't realize your passions are more than until time to let you know. So at the time, like, no, and I was going through so much at home, and I was that it was a little overwhelming for me. But then my senior year, I went to a different high school. Here basically reignited part of me, that I felt young, you know, and he just believed in me so much. He put me in everything that they did musically, every single thing. He thinks like the head soprano, and like he's like, no, every time I walk into the classroom, he'll start playing. I have nothing. Houston and he was just best, you know. He made singing and like my passion for it just like connect, you know. I was like, wow. I already wrote poetry from my English teacher. She my poetry class. So for me, poetry was ultimate. And then to connect it with music and to then learn that I could use my voice, you know, and I could sing this way, sing that way. I was like, oh, hold on, this is kind of fun. So
Wow.
yeah, that was just amazing, and God bless him. He was such a blessing in not just my life, but a lot of other students, especially in that class. So that just made me realize that it was a dream, not just a passion at that point. And then, um, you know, life things happened. I had to work 3 jobs, and it was hard to really. I didn't have any guidance at the time, so I was like, you know, I put it on the side burner. And my dad, he's like, you need to put something out. Like, you're crazy. Your music is so wonderful. You need to share this. And I'm like, no, Dad, like, I have so much to do. You know, and he's
Mm.
like, listen, you're always going to have things to do. Like, you're always going to have things to do. You're always going to need to make moves. You have to do something or you're going to be stagnant. You're never going to get
Mm.
music out if you don't put music out. Like, yeah, you're right.
Man, there's so much everybody. I want people to go back. So we're about 15 minutes in the interview. Go back to about the 13-minute mark. No, 12 minutes and 30 seconds, and go back and listen to the last 2.5 minutes there, because there's so much that you said in there, from the teacher believing in you and having some jitters to your dad basically telling you what you needed to hear, right? That you're always going to be busy. There's always going to be something to do, but you have this passion, this gift to be able to share with people. You mentioned your dad twice now. I mean, what why do you feel like he's been so supportive, or how did he see these things about you, and like how is it he's even still supporting you now? Like what like talk about that for a little bit.
So ah, I got a little emotional. Um, my dad actually was separated from us when I was about 5 years old. And I didn't see him again until I was one. Um, it was hard reuniting and stuff, and I really didn't give it a chance at first because at that
Mm.
point I was an adult. I'm like, you know, it's no need to reconnect, no need to reconcile. That I'm okay with everything. He was so persistent, and he's like, just come to dinner. And I'm like, I'm not sure, but I always did wonder like how I am the way I am because I'm very different from my Spanish side of the family. She's full Puerto Rican, so we're Spanish stuff over there. Rice and beans, chicken, like real Spanish stuff. But my dad, he's Cuban, he's um, Indian, he's Jamaican, so he's like a whole different side of me. And I always wondered why none of my family is really musical. My cousin, he ended up getting pretty big in the music business for drill rapping. He goes by K Flock. But he got really big into the drill rapping stuff later on. But at the time, like, wow, no one's musical in my family. This is kind of like odd. Like, where did I get talents from? So then I gave it a shot. Actually, my grandmother passed away. Um,
Mm.
mother, she passed away, and so I went to the funeral, and I'm like, okay, so nervous. I haven't seen this guy since I was like young, so I don't know how this is going to go. And he was in the army, so very like strict and stern. Like my dad was a lot. So for me, I was like overwhelmed a little bit. But my uncle, he goes, I'm keyboard money Mike. He is amazing. Um, over 12 instruments. He's a film director. He's a lot. He does a lot. So he's so cool. But he just started playing the piano, and in the service, he started in the piano. He calls my like cousins up and like some of my dad's side family. Some of them I've never met before, and they just and like it was such a new experience for me because I'm like, whoa, like I never had someone to even talk to in my family about the stuff. And they were always just like, eh. Get it. And I'm like, okay. But now I have a whole nother part of like my family that's like so much like me, so talented, just so different. It was so cool. Sorry, I got so lost in the conversation.
No, I'm
I
just listening because I think that's such a cool thing that you said about being able to, it's already tough enough to reconnect, especially as an adult, right? But for some of that pivot, that driving force to be music and to be able to come together and explore that together and meet these other family members who, because music is just part of people, it's part of their daily life, it's part of who they are, how they express themselves. And so for you to have that, it almost seemed like it was at the perfect time.
Yeah, I believe that everything happens for a reason. Even when we don't know the reason, and even when we feel like the reasons suck, I believe everything still happens for a reason. So that belief kind of like drove me as well to like just do it. Like why else would he be here? Why would this happen if it wasn't meant to be, if you weren't meant to learn those things? And I was so grateful that I did. So grateful that I did.
Wow.
And then from there it was a whirlwind of like a roller coaster ride. My dad, he started his own like management company to Atlanta with his wife, and he started doing a lot of music out there. And he was big in the music scene, before he was away and stuff. He was, I believe, I don't want to misspeak, but my memory's a little foggy, but I know he told me that he was KRS-One manager originally, and he helped them kind of come out stuff, and from there he like so many people. Joe has shouted my dad out on video and on his live stuff like that. I was like, "Oh, Dad, go you." But it was so cool to just have someone who understood music, and he always pushed me like so hard, and I'm like, but these songs are good, like no, but this is good enough, like this is good, and he's like, no, like I know your potential, like do better, like dig deep, and I'm like, all right, Dad, let me dig deep, but then I did. I realized like, okay, I need to take a retreat, like my mind right, because at the time I was so overwhelmed with life that
Mhm.
it seemed kind of impossible to get my music done and to really get into it. And there was so much I had to learn. I've never been trained musically, and everything I do comes really from the heart, and
Mm.
it helped me unlock that. So
Yeah, and I think that what's interesting again about artists, many artists, again, in any kind of art, any kind of expression, they actually lack discipline. They only want to do it when they feel like it, and when they feel like it's good enough, it's good enough. But your father, you mentioned him having been in the army. When you're in the service, you learn discipline is doing things even when you don't feel like doing it,
mhm.
even if you're not sure. It doesn't matter. Like if it needs to be done, you just do it. It gets done. And so for him to be able to combine that very hard skills, very um, sort of ultra masculine environment, but still having this background in music and passion for that, it's a rare combination of a person that has that. And so he already knows, and sometimes especially when it's coming from a parent, we don't really want to listen, like, okay, yeah, we sort of get tone deaf to our parents, right? But
Like what did
he
you say, Dad?
yeah, exactly. And so but he saw something, he knew something, but it was hard for him to translate it in a way that you were going to listen.
Exactly.
But fortunately, through this music, this avenue that you had, you could start to see it for yourself. Because we, especially when it comes to, I don't think people really understand how much physical activity and physical health has a bearing on how well an artist can perform, because there's a certain level of mental clarity that you get, there's a certain amount of endurance that you get, and we tend to fool ourselves into thinking, oh, it's good enough, or I got it, or I'm okay, I'm good enough. But that physical level of activity increases your mental acuity, and then you unlock like this whole other level. And again, people who have not competed in sports, you mentioned being an athlete for one, but if you've never competed at a high level, or you don't have that discipline like your father's built up, people don't get it, and they wonder why they never become successful, or why they're always starting and stopping, or why they never build up momentum. And so what he is distilled in you is building up that discipline and that momentum. And obviously your results have shown that. And so we've been talking for 25 minutes already. Hey everybody, it's Frankie, Variety Vibes Radio. We're having a great time. It's so cool talking with you. And we haven't even played a single song yet. So I think we should take a
Oh, right.
pause there. And thank you for everyone who's yeah, thank you for everyone who's been contributing and tuning in. I want to play a song real quick, and I think I want to go with "You Changed My Mind." Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, good. Anything you want to say, or you just want me to play it?
Um, this is my first single that I released. It's near and dear to my heart. My dad, he put to release this single. He supported me 100. He told me, hey, by next year we're gonna have it at 100. I'm in my head. I'm great, like 100K, my first single. No way, people don't know me yet. Um, and then he's like, "We're gonna get to 100K. Like I'm telling you right now, this is my birthday gift to you." And then I released it, and it got to 100K. But he actually passed away before it got to 100K. But he kept his promise. So it's a really
Wow.
really special song for me.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, I think we've said enough there. It's you changed my mind. Dajee let's go.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we be forever, baby. 10 years down for like forever, baby. I know you were acting shady. Guess out of my mind, I was going crazy. I wish you wouldn't do this to me. Should've never held you down. Now that I know, I gotta go. Time for me to find myself. You changed my mind. It was us for life. You changed my mind. It's time to say goodbye to what we knew and what we had. You threw it all in the trash. You changed my mind. My mind. Request for closure's been denied. Already gave you all my pride. Conversations feel contrite. Things are never as you advertise. You know the smallest things will tear me down. Now that I know, I gotta go. I hope your games are worth it now. You changed my mind. It was us for life. You changed my mind. Time to say goodbye to what we knew and what we had. As you threw it all in the trash. You changed my mind. I wish you wouldn't do this to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wish you wouldn't do this to me. All the pain and all the lies, I still trusted you through all advice. Walked right into my demise. No more fighting, I'm desensitized. I wish I wouldn't do this. I wish I wouldn't do this. I wish you wouldn't do this. I wish cause you changed my mind. Changed my mind, you changed my mind, baby. You changed my mind. You changed my mind. You changed.
Wow. Hey, what a way to make yourself known on the very first song. Yeah, so I hope let everyone know where can they reach you if they're loving what they're hearing so far. How can people connect with you?
Please follow me on Instagram at Dajee Lynn, DajeeLynn. I follow everyone back. If there's a chance where I miss someone, you can just send me a message. I'll always follow you back. So yeah, you can hit me up there. You can email me at dajeelynnell@gmail.com if you want to work. If you have any beats or anything like that. Um, you can follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, anywhere at Dajee Lynn.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And if everyone who's listening, if you haven't, we finally played our first song. We were 25 minutes in. We've been having a great conversation. And from the jump, just very much someone who loves to meet new people, loves to communicate, have a real conversation with someone, connect with someone. It's no surprise that you're building this community. And it's not even just locally, because I'm on the West Coast and somehow, even I heard your music.
Mhm.
And so you're national at this point, right? With way over 100,000 streams on your first song.
Wow.
You're going to be building globally here. It's very exciting. And so, what other tips do you think you would give, just from what you've learned so far, as far as if someone, let's say you're talking to your students, I think that would be a good example.
Mhm.
You've got a student, they're 14, 15, 16. They are, maybe someone's telling them that they were talented, naturally talented. What would you give them as like the first step or two as far as being able to put themselves out there and share their music?
Um, I actually have a few students who come to me for music advice specifically. Um,
Cool.
and I tell them the same thing. Educate yourself, on everything you do. Like everything. If you think that you already know it, go figure out something you don't know about it. Education on and knowledge, just basic knowledge on things that you want to do and things that you're trying to do is so important. I think people skip over that. They're just like, oh, I can do anything I want to do. And I'm like, okay, kids, yes, but you still have work to do. You have to figure out who do you want to be, what do you want to be known for, like what are you actually trying to do? Is this something long term? Is this something short term? And I tell my kids a lot, like that's one of the main things I say is to write down a list of things you actually like to do, pick the top three, and then go from there education wise. Okay, how can I be a better artist? Pick a person? Hey, Picasso, what did he do? What did he study? Now, same thing with music. Hey, I want to get out in music. Okay, well, pick an artist that you really like and admire. Pick three of them. Okay, what did they do? What do they sound like? Did you read their lyrics? What were they saying? What are you trying to say? And just basically trying to tell them that everyone's going to be different. There's people who don't like my sound, there's people who's not going
Mm.
to like what you do. You have to really love it for yourself, and it takes some time. That's something I've learned over time, is that like to give yourself grace. You're not going to be perfect.
Mm.
You're going to make mistakes. You're not sometimes, especially when you're starting and you're like hearing back your voice, you're like, you get kind of thrown off. Even if you're watching a video or interview, I'm like, why did I say that so much? But at the end of the day, it's all a learning process, and it takes time to actually like what you're doing, and not like it, but like how you're doing it. I feel like we're our
Mm.
worst critics. We're so hard on ourselves all the time, and I've ever since my dad passed away, I'm like, okay, let me take a breath, because obviously this is meant to be. Now, I just have to make sure that I'm not forgetting that. Not getting so overwhelmed with everything I do in my day-to-day life that I can't put time into it. That I can't sit there and say like, oh, I'm gonna sing today. There's been times where I'm working three jobs and I literally don't sing for like a week, and I get so sad
Mm.
about it because I love music so much. And I'm like, dang, I didn't get to sing this week. What's going on? And over this past year, it's been a big change. I put my gigs first. I'm like, okay, where am I going to sing? I'm like, when can I write? The other day, I was like, hey, it's been a month since I've written a song. Like, what's wrong with me?
Mm.
Let me write a song today. Boom. Wrote it that day, sang it for my kids. They're like, it's a hit. I'm like, perfect. Put it in the vault. So, um, to finish off your question, I just tell them to find their originality and to educate themselves on everything that they're doing. So that's like my biggest advice.
That was a lot of great tips right there. So what I want to do is I want to link to your link tree, if you don't mind. That way everyone can click on that and they can hear some of that music that you've been putting out. You've been busy. I think I mentioned that already. You just dropped another song, and we're gonna play it before we get out of here.
Yeah.
But first, talk about, because you've got a couple of performances coming up, right? I mean, how did you? Well, talk about that. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. What do you have coming up in April?
I'm gonna be performing at the Daze Summit, DAZE Summit, in Brooklyn, New York. I have two performance slots that I'm gonna be doing. One on the 11th, it's a Tuesday, for the podcast Whose Mic Is It? I believe it's called. Yeah, and that's gonna be so dope. That's gonna be so dope. And on the 16th, I'm performing on a different stage, for DJ Drewski. If you guys know his Instagram, so Drewski, and he's so dope. We've actually met a few times before, so He's dope, and it's gonna be exciting to see him again because it's been a couple years since the last time I've seen him. So I want to see if he remembers me by my voice. You know, like is he gonna be like, "Hey,
Hmm.
I've heard that girl sing before."
Yeah. That's really cool. So on the 11th, you're going to be in Queens, is that right?
In Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then so Drewski, I mean, that's a name a lot of people, especially on the East Coast, know. Like, how did you like explain that to me? Like, how did you get on this summit? Like, how did you meet him? You mentioned it was a few years ago. Like, this wasn't recent.
Yeah,
So how?
I didn't get on the summit from Drewski though. I met Drewski at a different
Wow.
performance when I performed. I met him at a party first, and we didn't really
Mhm.
talk too much. It was just more of a like, "Hey, nice to meet you."
Yeah.
I'm always gonna say hi to anyone, you know. I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Nice to meet you," and go about my business. And then the next time, I believe I was performing in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and he was DJing for us and stuff, and that was cool because my family came out, and I don't think I even knew he was gonna be there, so it was kind of cool. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he remembers me. He didn't, and I was like, oh well, it's fine. So then I ended up singing, and he's like, oh, your voice is dope. Like, do you have any music out? And at the time, I didn't. So I'm like, oh no, but I can sing like what you want to hear. I'm always down.
And you can do that. I mean, some people, they need all kinds of prep and they need to think about it, but you can literally just start singing like that, and it sounds amazing, and without any of the production or overproduction. I mean, you could do that just basically on command.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's such an interesting story because you grew up in Connecticut, didn't you?
Yeah. So I was in the Bronx until about fifth grade. And then my mom was
Okay.
down here. And then I spent my middle school and my high school out here. I hated it a lot. Just the people are so different. In New York, people think people are so aggressive.
Sure.
They're not aggressive unless they have to be aggressive. Okay, maybe a little aggressive, but not unless they have to. And they're really
Sure.
nice. I've had so many nice people that I've met in the Bronx and stuff, when I came out here, I felt like they were way more mean. They were like really mean, and they're not used to people looking how I look and like, being how I am. So at the time, I'm like, I don't want to do this, and I was so young too that I was like, no, thank you. So I kind of isolated myself for the beginning half of it. And then after high school, I was out of here. I said, back to the Bronx I go. I was like, because my mom wouldn't let me go, until I'm done with high school. And then I'm like,
Sure.
I want to go home, Mom. Please let me go. No, so I ended up going back to the Bronx at that time.
Yeah, and that's also interesting too because people everywhere can be mean. It's just a different type of mean, I guess.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
you got to sort of find your environment. And you mentioned people feeling like you're looking around, you're not seeing people like you. And sometimes I think when someone's different, we feel uncomfortable, and so we act in a way that's not so kind. But you also understood like, hey, there's a place that you feel more comfortable where you feel like you can be the best version of yourself. And I think that's been important too for you as far as how your music has come along. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? Because some of your music deals with serious topics. It deals with serious emotions. We get into relationships with people, and those relationships are not a fairy tale all the time. It can be very difficult, and most of us were not taught how to handle conflict or even argue, but do it in a productive, respectful way. Right.
That's like a big thing.
And
Communication is like, even if we're separating like the romantic relationship, just with friends, there's even with my students, I hear them talking to each other, and I'm like, what kind of friend are you going to be to a friend if you're just disrespecting each other? Oh no, that's how we play. Oh yeah. It's not going to last then. You have to respect each other. In my class, they know I don't play any games. I'm very strict in my class. I'm like, we don't curse, and we respect everybody. Meaning, like, you respect me, I respect you, you respect each other, because they don't hear that enough. They're just allowed to say anything they want, do anything they want. It's like, no. You need structure, So communication is like, and I always tell them, learn how to be an effective communicator. communicator and emotionally and control your emotions and be able to like have an argument and a disagreement and say, you know what, I'm gonna listen to your perspective anyways, you know? So in my
Right.
song Missing Pieces, it was like my first time really like expressing like sometimes I story tell when I write, you know what I'm saying? So You Changed My Mind, it was like a mixture of things I've gone through, but also a mixture of like just storytelling, you know? I've added some
Mm.
sprinkles into there just to make it more like nice, you know, and smooth. And plus, I don't like it to seem like my life is like depressing or anything. No, I just like to express like those things because nobody talks about it. And when I grew up, that kind of music really helped me like learn things. I didn't have someone to guide me, you know. I had to guide myself for a really long time, and I lost younger, you know, from when I was going through what I was going through to high school. I was like, you know, what do I do? And music really helped me. It taught me so many lessons
Wow.
from Mary J. Blige. Her just telling you, you know, to be who you are and like, you know, like F that, you know, and I'm like, period, Mary. Or Tony
Yeah,
Braxton,
it's okay to be strong and in be willing to have this internal dialogue, but also these challenging, tough conversations with other people.
And sometimes I'm so nice that it's hard for me to just say how I feel in a way. I'm blunt, but like I've learned to tone it down. So now it's hard to find that happy medium of like, how can I say this in a nice way, you know? So with this song, it was really me just expressing how I felt in the moment in a nice way, you know, trying to understand and trying to show what I was feeling, what I was going through without it seeming so different and complicated. You know, for me, it's easier to write things down when I feel so overwhelmed and just confused and going through an emotion. I'm like, you know, let me just write it in a song and see if that can translate and you can understand me a little bit better. So yeah.
I think that's a perfect segue. So this is Missing Pieces. It released March 20th. So everyone, please click the link tree. Keep running this up. This is Missing Pieces.
Ooh, hey, hey. Searching for what's missing for the both of us. We ain't been happy, falling in and out of love. Searching for what's missing, oh, missing for the both of us. We ain't been happy, falling in and out of love. Something missing, I don't know what it is. I can feel it's something soft. We've been rocking since we were kids. I've been in a new state of mind, second guessed about 1,000 times. I know that you felt it too, so I appreciate what you tried to do. Cause I can see that you tried to change. Got a feeling that it's just too late. And I ain't tryna hurt you, baby. I spent months trying to contemplate, but some things I can't forget, like promises you haven't met. Understand that I'm not perfect either, and that's where I've been. Searching for what's missing, missing for the both of us. We ain't been happy, falling in and out of love. Searching for what's missing, oh, missing for the both of us. We ain't been happy, falling in and out of love. What would it take for you to just walk away? To just walk away. No one will never change. Said too hard to go our separate ways. Falling in love with the good parts, choosing to stay for the good days. Don't you see that we've gotten too comfortable? The tries and attempts becoming sufferable. But some things I can't forget, like
There it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I really like that song. That's one that
Thank
you could
you.
put on repeat. It reminds me of that '90s sort of R&B feel,
Mhm.
where the words really mattered. It wasn't just about trying to be trendy
Mm-mm.
or about a lot of profanity and heavy beats on there. Who produced this song? You don't also produce too, do you?
No, be on B Stars. Shout out Louis Moran. Um, and I went to record in a studio that my cousin had linked me to. Uh, in Manhattan. I'm sorry, I'm like stuttering for some reason. I got like so excited for you guys to hear it. But
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great song.
yeah, I recorded in Manhattan at this dope studio with this dope producer named Rodney. And he kind of got my vision. I told him I don't want too much auto tune. Like, I know tracks need some to sound official. I get that. But I want the minimum of everything. I want the minimum
Mm,
of everything. And in my ad libs, we can just throw things in there and some effects and make it a little bit spicy. And I'm still new to the recording kind of
sure.
lane. But I like to have fun, and really enjoy it. And that song, it just means so much to me because I remember when I was in that place and when I felt exactly like that. And I feel like my music does go from my experiences with like just my students, and they're just like, Miss, like I really like your song. It's like I really listened, and I'm just like, it's so sweet because that's what I did it for. I did it because there's people that are just like me that are searching for missing pieces in situations, whether it's a friendship or a relationship or just themselves. And it's hard sometimes, and say that without saying it.
Mm,
So for me, I felt like
yeah.
I kind of wrote it in a way where I can say it and you can understand it. Well, not you, but everyone can
No,
understand.
no, everybody. I think everybody needs to hear the message, and I like that so much that you're helping people figure it out for themselves and communicate again in a way that's respectful of their own boundaries, but also respectful of the other person. So I think that's really special. So I hope everyone continues to support your music.
Thank
We've
you.
had a really great conversation. We're coming up on 50 minutes here, so I know it's the weekend. I want to respect everyone's time, but this is definitely a couple of songs that I hope people really put on repeat.
Thank you.
So as we sort of transition out of here, is there anyone else that I mean you've really said some really kind things about people? Is there anyone else that you want to shout out or something that we missed? I think we're gonna have to. This is another one of our interviews that we're gonna have to do a part two because I feel like we just scratched the surface, even with
I know.
having spoken for a long time.
Hmm.
So I want to continue to make sure that Variety Vibes we're supporting your work. I know Greg really enjoys it too, and that's so. Thank you to Greg again for
Thank
connecting
you.
us to be able to do this. But who else do you want to shout out, or who do you want to work with next, or like something that we missed, a fun fact, whatever you want to share?
um, always shout out my mom. That's my grandma. Love them. For my award, right? My mom. I want to thank
Hmm.
my
Yeah, absolutely.
grandma. um, Exotic Mob Music. I met them in LA last year, and they have been so supportive of my growth, and we've been working together. We just support each other, and I love genuine vibes. So shout out to Marvin. He's so dope. If you guys have time, you guys can check him out. He's all over my page, so you'll see him. Well, not all over, but you'll see him there. um and then I'll give like one thing that I haven't said, and let me think into it. um Something that you don't know. I love like these kind of portions because it's like, what do people not know about me? Which I feel like is so much. Uh, yeah. I'm like, there's so much. What do I say? You said who do I want to work with next? We'll go with that. So,
Yeah.
I grew up with guy Zay. He goes by Zay France. I know a lot of you, if you guys are still watching and with us, I know a lot of you guys may not have heard of him. But he's on the rise. He just did a song with Neo called Laying Low. So dope. And we went to school together, and he was in this kind of like group, and he used to sing with Messiah as well. and they were just so dope. And I thought like, dang, they're so confidently like dope, and they're into the music thing. And at that time, I told you I wasn't so much into the music, but I was like, wow, like what an inspiration. And we got to hanging out for a couple years and stuff. He moved away, or we just kind of not connected anymore in a way. And then next thing you know, I seen him putting music out again. I followed him, and then he did a song with Neo and stuff. And I'm like, why have we not done music yet? This doesn't even make sense, because he is so talented, and I know that I'm so talented as well. So I'm like, boy, if you don't stop playing, then let's get to work. We would make dope music, and we grew up in the same place, so why not? So that's a feature I'm looking forward to. Everything happens in his time, so I'm never pressed about it, but I'm looking forward
Mm,
to working with him. And I want to work with, I know it's going to sound crazy, but not crazy, but different, but I do want to work with like someone that has like a Thames, and like a real Thames kind of reggae kind of vibe. And I'm looking to work
mhm.
with some rappers. I like to have some fun, and I'm really good at making some hooks. So I'm looking forward to working with anyone with like talent that just is trying to go for things. I'm always open to features and collabs. Always, literally. You guys send me something to my email, dajeelynnell@gmail.com. I'll listen to it, and then we can get to chatting.
That's perfect. So Zay, and then also, this is a whole other story, but Gary Archer follows you, and he shouted you out a couple times, and he's a legend, West Coast, right? I'm here in the Bay Area in Oakland, and he's got a weekly show. He gets thousands of people tuning in, so that's a whole other story as far as how you two connected. But uh, people sometimes, every once in a while, people forget about the Bay Area music, but it's coming on strong again. It's on the up, it's on the rise again. Some of the strongest rappers in the industry have come from the Bay Area. Independent rappers who don't sell out, who don't care whether you like them or not. And so, especially for the that sort of reggaeton sound that you mentioned, uh, you know, definitely check out what's happening on the West Coast, and let's stay connected so that we can explore that a little more. Because I
Yeah.
know some of the people who have, I've been fortunate to meet some of the people who really ushered that in as far as the United States is concerned,
Hmm.
to meet these artists that have been doing it for decades. So that gives me a lot of ideas. So let's keep the conversation going. So again, Variety Vibes Radio. If you love what we're doing, make sure you support, make sure you're following, and the links up there if you want to donate, or if you're an artist and you want to have a discussion and you want to start working together. Let's do it, because Variety Vibes Radio is the number one place to meet those independent artists that you're like, wow, why haven't I heard of this person? Now they're on my playlist, they're stuck in my brain.
Yeah.
That's definitely where your music comes in. It's a timeless sound, but you're bringing very modern passion to it. So I love that. It's been such a great conversation. Thank you so much. Have an amazing weekend. Thank you to everyone that's tuned
Bye,
in.
guys.
And again, we're just getting started. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, stay tuned for part
Bye for
two.
now. Yep. Bye, everybody.